Hello, stupid.
Hi, Sanya.
Hi, Tama. Don't forget to say
How are
hi
you?
to the little cat here.
Yes, hi, Tequila.
She can't hear you. I have headphones on.
You're the most beautiful background, even facing away from
I know.
us.
Like,
She's like refusing to look in our direction.
very on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, if you're watching on video today, I'm just gonna be keeping an eye on her because she tends to, like years ago, pee on this bed. But now when she chills on there, I'm always suspicious of her.
Can you imagine? Like, she does it, like, she's waiting for us to start recording to do it.
Exactly. And that's literally what it feels like she's doing.
Nice. How are you today?
Good. Energized, ready to thank God she got off.
Yeah.
Anyways, ready to do this. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm also excited. Yeah.
Yeah, how's your week
Um,
been?
Not bad. I mean, busy. I've been on vacation for like 2 weeks now, and I've never been busier on a staycation. I like had so many plans. We worked a lot lately on setting up like a stronger structure for the podcast. We had our guest episode last week, like, and then I'm rearranging the entire house also, which means I made a mess and now I have to clean it up. So that was a bit exhausting, but I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and I still have a week to chill, and I'm excited for that. Yeah, I also like groomed and shaved for the first time in 2 weeks today.
Oh, nice. Just
So
for us?
just for you guys, especially for you listening on audio. I was getting pretty scruffy.
That's so funny. I like how you said we've been working on the podcast. I'm like, I haven't done shit. Like, um,
You've been green lighting my endeavors. So
yeah. I have been on the opposite end of the spectrum where I've been working like crazy because now I'm on days off actually going on vacation. But then I'm gonna be
mhm.
where you are next month, where I have days off and I'm doing a little staycation. So I'm excited to
Yeah,
exactly what you're doing. I have that plan to really I really want to clean out my cupboards and stuff like that because I'm the kind of person that like when it's closed it can be messy. I don't care if it's open, like if people can see it, then I like
hmm
care of it. So my kitchen's been an absolute mess for the last 3 years, almost 4 years that we've been in this place. So
See, I'm the same. Like, I don't care when it's behind closed door if it's messy, but the problem is it's not efficient. So there's a lot of stuff that I could be putting away there that I'm not putting away because I just kept it as a mess. Like, I think I have like an entire cupboard that is mostly like a bunch of random medicine that we put away,
mhm,
and then some random coffee
mhm.
pods,
Yeah.
and then some random like bottles for the what's it called, the soda stream.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, that could be used more efficiently, and I'm looking for space desperately, and I have so much storage space in this apartment. I'm just not using it right. So
Yeah. No, totally. Like I
that's what
don't
I'm.
clean things behind closed doors on a daily basis. Like that needs to be a task I take on. And like
Mhm.
same, I have like we have this cabinet right beside the stove, and the bottom shelf is spices that we use every day, right? The
Mhm.
middle shelf is just random. And then the top shelf is like spices that we like to use often, but not every day. And I
Yeah.
have never touched the middle shelf in my 4 years of being here, but I'm always like overextending to try and get like the top shelf. I like for that one, you probably need like a step stool or something. But like
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
get on the counter or like I use tongs to pull things out. So I'm like, I need to clearly bring that one down and like get rid of that middle
Yeah.
shelf.
Yeah. That's the other thing. So our ceilings are fairly high, so our cabinets are high too.
Mhm.
And so I have a stepping stool, but I was keeping it all the way at the other end of the apartment. So I like never used it. And so I never reached for those things at the top of the cabinet.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, let me make a space for the step stool in the
Yeah.
kitchen. So it's there when I need it and it can, use it more often.
Yeah, same. We put our step stool on the balcony, which is right beside the kitchen, but it's that one step of going outside to get it. So instead, I just go to the kitchen, like the dining table, to get a chair. But I'm like, I feel like this could be better.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, but it
yeah,
feels nice to
that's
be
what I'm
productive,
neurotic
eh?
about lately. Yeah, it does. It really did. And I got a lot of stuff out of the apartment, and like now I'm allowing myself to start relaxing a bit more, because even if I don't get everything done by the time my vacation, and on my days off I can do small tasks like, okay, I'm doing this cupboard, stuff like that,
Mhm.
because now everything's in place for it to be received better. So
Yeah, I am glad you've been so productive.
thank you.
Shall we
I think
get?
I think
Oh, go ahead.
I think Justin wished I was a bit less productive and taking care of my mental health a bit better, but
Yeah.
nope, neurotic.
And I'm sure his mental health, because I heard, what was it, a couple days ago, we were on the phone and Justin comes home and you're like, oh, hi. And then you just list off all these things he needs to do or that have been done.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. So, you know, and he has to live in the mess that I made. So,
Yeah. But you know what? At least someone's doing it. Like when Avril gets annoyed, I'm like, would you do this? Yeah. Like, are you going to take on the kitchen one day?
oh no, he never gets annoyed at me. Quite the opposite. He's like, I feel like I'm not helping enough. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah,
good.
because I'm a control freak.
um,
uh,
all right. Shall we get into my icebreaker actually?
let's do it. Let's do it.
Being very firm there for a second. I'm going to do our icebreaker now.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's a cartoon character that you were fond of when you were young?
oh, that's a good one. Um, do you know Asterix and Obelix? Like
It's just
the
like punctuations?
no, they're more French cartoons, I think. Well, they're like Belgium cartoons. Let me find an image for you, or maybe
Asterix. Oh, found it.
yeah. Do you know them at all?
No.
So they're like these like I don't even know what Gaulois would be in English. They're like these
Viking?
like kind of, yeah, like European kind of Viking-ish, um, and they have super strength powers, and they fight Romans, and they
Oh.
defend their little village against Romans, and they're super goofy, and they love to eat roasted like boar.
Oh.
Mhm.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, so my mom had like painted and arranged my whole bedroom into Asterix and Obelix theme.
Yeah.
Um, the movies are great too, and they have great songs.
That's
Yeah,
so cute. Oh my
yeah,
god. That's so funny. I've never heard of them. What is
yeah. Because they're like they're translated in every language, but they're more like they're created in French.
Oh, yeah, Story from Brussels.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, interesting.
yeah,
Cool. Maybe. Oh, and it's still going on
yeah.
from 1969 to present.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that old.
Yeah.
Nice.
Um. Okay, mine would be like Tinkerbell. I was like weirdly obsessed with her.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I had like her like posters in my room, and then like like Tinkerbell pencils with erasers and all those things. I really like Tinkerbell. I don't know why. I don't think I have any reasoning behind it.
I like that she's like kind of like chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
She's not necessarily like a good character.
Mhm.
She's not a villain, but she's not um like the most helpful. She's not a sidekick for sure.
Yeah, exactly. She's a little cutie.
Yeah. she's sassy.
Yeah. Oh, she has a twin sister. Did I know that?
She does?
Periwinkle.
Okay. Poor Perry living in the shadow of her sister.
Yeah. No one really talks about Periwinkle. Would it be Periwinkle
No.
Bell? Is Tinker her first name, last name Bell? Thinking a little too much about this.
I
Maybe I'll do an
yeah,
episode
seems
on
so.
Tinkerbell one day.
Also, they both sound like drag queen names. They would be
Yeah,
great drag queen names.
totally.
Periwinkle. Periwinkle would be a great drag queen
Yeah,
name.
I see it. Um,
All right.
all right.
Uh, are you
Take it
ready
away.
for my subject?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have a little story for you first.
Oh, I love it when you tell stories.
Yeah. All right. So, in August of 27th, 2019, Harry Dunn, a young 19-year-old man from Northamptonshire in England, was hit head on by a car while he was driving his motorcycle. The person driving the car was Anne Sakulas, a 42-year-old woman, and she hit him because she was driving her car on the wrong side of the road. Harry Dunn, who most likely died on impact, was pronounced dead shortly after his arrival to the Major Trauma Center at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And a few days later, the British officials announced that the driver and Sakulas had left the country. So this sent the public into an outrage as they demanded justice for Harry Dunn. Sakulas, however, could not be prosecuted by the British government as she was the wife of an American diplomat and therefore was protected by diplomatic immunity. Why, I don't know why I said I always do this. Instead of doing the the H when there is an H, I do an H when there's no H. So immunity instead of immunity.
I didn't catch that.
Therefore, she was protected by diplomatic immunity.
Ooh.
So, can you guess what the subject of today is?
I'm not
We're going to
sure.
talk.
Diplomatic immunity, maybe?
We're going to talk about diplomatic immunity. What do you know about diplomatic immunity?
Honestly, close to nothing. But like kind of like what you're saying, where like it seems like they're an official or someone important from a different country that comes into another country and they're like immune from the laws of that country.
Yeah,
And they get their own
exactly.
license plate.
Oh, do they? Oh, that. Oh, I think you're right. They do get a license plate,
Yeah.
a special license
And
plate.
that's the only thing. Where sometimes I'm like, why does this person have a green license plate? And then someone will be like, oh, they might be a diplomat.
Right, right, right. Um, that's I didn't catch that in my, but I think you're right
Yeah.
about the license plate. Yeah. So I knew next to nothing about it,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I wanted to look into it.
Mm-hmm.
So diplomatic immunity allows diplomats safe passage and freedom of travel in a host country. It affords almost total protection from local lawsuits and prosecution. I was kind of expecting the concept to be much more complex than what I already understood,
Mm-hmm.
but it's actually kind of just as simple as we all know it. It's really just, you know, diplomats are immune from law prosecution in the country where they are. The purpose kind of makes sense too. So it's to allow diplomats to carry out their work without interference from the host country. So laws differ from country to country and they change all the time. Um, for that reason, we need to have, when we sending people abroad to do diplomatic missions, we need to be able to operate sometimes outside of those laws. Like a modern day example would be internet usage, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So in a host country where internet usage is very like monitored and censored,
Mm-hmm.
the diplomat must be exempt from the laws restricting the communications to carry out his duties. His communications must be unmonitored, unobstructed, and free from surveillance or interference from the host country.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know if you're going to
Mhm.
go into this, but can I just stop you and kind of like ask what would be a diplomat? Like, what is, why would a diplomat be going somewhere to do a job? Like, can I have an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very common, and they exist for almost every country in every country.
Mm-hmm.
It's to maintain good relationships with that country, good political and working relationships with that country on behalf of the host country,
Okay.
as well as being a representative of that country for citizens of their country, for citizens of their country who live abroad.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, like the easiest example is if you lose your passport while traveling abroad, you'll go to the Canadian embassy to get assistance from the staff there to get a new passport sent to you.
Okay.
right? Or if you run into trouble while abroad, you'll also get to the embassy to seek counseling and protection,
Hmm.
right? Um, if you know there's well, we'll kind of get into it a bit later, but also for negotiations with the other country, it might go through the diplomat that's staying there. And also, when I say maintaining good relationship, the diplomat can host parties for the government officials in that country, and kind of push their agenda through some PR and from some networking and stuff like that,
Hmm.
right? And the reason diplomatic immunity works is because it's very much a two-way street. So the host country expects their diplomat to be treated the same way with the same freedom and protection when abroad. Um, both countries recognize the importance of maintaining diplomatic relations, even when, or even more so when the political climate is tense, right?
Hmm.
And since it's basically impossible to have the exact same laws in two given countries, we expect that our representation sent to negotiate or to maintain good relations are exempt from the laws that we did not choose for them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, right. So it kind of makes sense. It's important to note that the degree of protection awarded to diplomat personnel depends on their rank and position. So an ambassador, for example, is the highest ranking official, would enjoy full immunity,
Okay.
and then in the embassy, sorry, or the consular employees would enjoy a lower level of immunity based on their position,
Okay.
right?
Um, Going back to that story you told, family members get it?
Yes.
Interesting. And
Mhm.
like I kind of get like the reason of like exemption of laws. Like it totally makes sense. Like they're here to do their work. They sometimes different laws would come in the way, but like driving in the right lane should be like universal law.
I'm glad that you're invested in that story because I'm
I
coming back to it later.
Okay, good. I was like, are we just leaving that story the way it is, and then
No, it was just a little teaser.
okay, a teaser. Okay, I got it.
Okay. But I mean that's kind of why people were outraged.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the UK and the US here, like countries who typically would take those sort of infractions really seriously,
Hmm.
right? Speaking of the US, the United States tend to be generous when granting diplomatic immunity to a visiting diplomat because a large number of US diplomats work in countries with less protective individual rights. So if the states were to punish a visiting diplomat without sufficient ground, US representative in other countries could receive harsher treatment. So they gave a lot of freedom and some considerable amount of kind of looking the other way in order to assure the safety of their diplomats abroad.
Hmm.
Diplomats are not totally immune from all laws in the host country, however. So, for example, they can be declared persona non grata, which means like they're not welcome in that country and they can be expelled. And for serious crime, the host country may also ask the home country to waive their immunity. So in this case, the host country will be allowed to prosecute the diplomat.
Oh, okay.
However, this almost never happens. What's most likely to happen is that the diplomat would be sent back home, and the home country will then prosecute based on their laws and justice,
Hmm.
right? So that's for what diplomatic immunity is. It's like I said, like it's kind of a simple concept, but it's very broad. So the implication of it is when it gets complicated.
It seems so vague, almost.
And I think it's purposely vague.
Yeah, I think so too.
But the concept of purpose make a lot more sense also when we look at the history of diplomatic immunity.
Okay.
So it's actually a very, very old concept. Basically, from as early as when humans were able to communicate, they were also able to negotiate. So it wouldn't have been very long before humans realized that it might be better to listen to what the messenger of the enemy tribe has to say, for example, instead of killing them on sight.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you avoid, big turf wars and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the first evidence that can be found of a form of diplomatic immunity are from Australian Aboriginals, as well as in old Hindu texts from 1500 before Christ.
Mm.
The Institute of Manu. Do you know about the Institute of Manu?
No.
It's an ancient Hindu law text from that
Sorry,
time.
I was like, why would I know that? And then it's like, oh, Hindu. I might have known that, but probably not.
Just putting you on the spot
Yeah.
every occasion I get. So it's old ancient Hindu law text, which I'm like, whoa, they had law texts in 1500 before Christ,
Yeah.
which I guess they did. And but it says in the text, an arriving guest should receive a place to sit, water, and some properly seasoned food.
Indians would.
Yeah.
None of that bland shit.
Right. Give me the spices.
Yeah.
Um, which I assume would be it's a form of courtesy to like give like some good food. But also I was thinking like, oh, maybe back then, seasoning was important for like the digestibility of the food. Like you use salt and stuff like that too. But no, I think it's really just so it tastes
Sorry,
good.
I'm also dying that like the first seasoning that came to your mind is salt.
No, I'm only thinking of that because you will use salt to cure meat so that
Yeah.
you can store it longer,
True. Okay.
right?
It's
So,
that process.
but also, as soon as I said it, I heard it. I was like, never mind, I'm backing out. It's just so it tastes.
Uh, my favorite seasoning is salt and
My
pepper.
favorite seasoning. I actually have a very well stuffed spice cabinet. I'll let you all know.
And you have great seasoning. You have a great palate. I can
Thank you.
I can contest to that.
You can attest. Yeah.
Is it a test or contest?
Attest.
Oh, I just said contest to that. Thanks.
Contest means literally the opposite.
Thank you for correcting me without even realizing you were correcting me.
Still in ancient India, rulers did not have permanent ambassadors like we have now in embassies, right? So instead, they relied on envoys who delivered messages and on negotiators. So it was expected that your messenger would be granted safe passage, would be fed and well treated, and returned safely.
Yeah, that makes
Right?
sense. You'd hope so.
Also, like, don't forget that back then, like, traveling was not as easy as it is now, and it was not as safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the journey itself was actually quite dangerous for the messenger, if only for like the exposure to the elements and all, right? So mistreating or killing a messenger would be perceived as an act of war, because the whole purpose of the messenger is trying to negotiate and to come to terms and to find an agreement, right?
Yeah.
The Islamic prophet Muhammad sent and received envoys frequently. He was known for strictly forbidding harming them. And the practice was also continued by Rashidun Caliph, who exchanged diplomats with the Ethiopians and the Byzantines. This diplomatic exchange would continue during the Arab-Byzantine Wars, which I'm sure you all know about. You've learned about it in high school, right?
Totally.
Yeah. For that reason, since it's so obvious you all know about it, I won't go in more details about it. Have you seen the movie 300
Yes.
with the Spartans?
I am Sparta.
Yeah, exactly. So for that specific scene, right, depicts like a the beginning of an ancient war between the Persians and the Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
So the Persian king, I have the pronunciation here. It's Xerxes, the Persian king Xerxes, had sent an envoy to Sparta asking for earth and water. And asking for earth and water back then was perceived as a sign of submission. So, famously, the Spartans then, in response, threw him down the well, saying that he'll find both earth and water at the bottom.
Oh my god!
And this is when in the movie he screamed, "This is
Oh,
Sparta!"
okay, it's this is Sparta. I quoted it wrong.
Yeah. And this was considered an act of war. Now, this might have been like a really cool scene in the movie and like badass move all around. But even then, it was actually extremely uncool to kill a messenger. Very unhonorable. And, even when war is unavoidable, it's something that you just don't do.
Mhm.
Like, it's a shitty move.
Yeah. That's why I'm guessing the saying came, don't shoot the messenger.
Oh, actually, probably.
Yeah.
Well, not from this specific example,
Yeah,
but yeah.
but like I guess like when that started happening, it's like, yo, don't shoot the messenger.
Look at you connecting all the
I know, I'm a little
dots.
smart sometimes.
No, probably. You're right. If we stay in ancient Greece, we'll see the first emergence of diplomats establishing home in another city, state, or clan or tribe. So the first examples of what would resemble today as embassies.
Mm-hmm.
These were referred as proxenoi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And they acted as a permanent representation of their home state rather than simply negotiating peace. Fun fact: that's where the word proxy comes from. Do you know what proxy means?
Like, hang on, I think I do. I
Like
think I do.
you can attend a meeting in proxy for your
Oh
boss, for
yes, okay.
example.
No, I wasn't gonna say
Right?
that. I was gonna say like nearby, but
That's proximity.
okay.
Oh, I don't know if it's the same origin. I don't know.
Let's look into
I don't
it.
think it's the same origin.
Where
Yeah,
does word proxy come from? Originate from?
the typing on your keyboard was so soothing in my ears.
Oh, um, no, it doesn't come from proxy. Comes from a Middle English word procuracy, procuration.
Okay, so
But
it's a
proxy
different.
may refer to a person who is authorized to act for another, or it may designate the function or authority for serving in one's stead.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's also a term that we'll use a lot in video editing. So when you're doing video editing, often your files are too large to work efficiently. So you'll create a low quality copy of that file to do your editing, and then at the end you'll just replace them with the good quality file, and that's called a
Okay.
proxy.
So like I guess it's like put something in place of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So proxenoi would enjoy certain rights and privilege concerning trade, taxation, and the law, as well as some honorary benefits. In return for having such privilege, they also had to certain obligations towards the host city. So, for example, when returning to their home city, they would carry out favors for the city that's hosted them.
Oh, okay.
The proxenor was charged with maintaining good relationships with the host city, since all communications and negotiation with his home city would go through him. So it's kind of the same thing. You go to the parties, you make chummy with the government officials because you need to have them on your side when it comes to time to pass on messages from your city or negotiation or push the agenda of your city.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the institution of proxenoi became the basis for all future international relationship in the ancient world. There's some, before we move on to more recently, I have some famous mistreatment of diplomats in the ancient world.
Scandalous stuff.
I know. Okay, so this one. A Roman envoy was urinated on when he was leaving the city of Tarentum.
Gross.
The envoy made the promise that This stain will be washed away with blood, which
Ooh,
became true during the Pyrrhic Wars.
drama.
Right? Can you? That's such a badass line, though. You have like pee stain from someone pissing on you on your tunic, and you're like, "This stain will be washed away with blood."
Oh, I love your ancient time voice right now.
Thank you. The arrest and ill treatment of the envoy Raja Raja Kola by the king Kulashkara.
I love those names. I wonder.
Raja Raja Chola or Kola, probably
Raja
Kola.
Rajan.
That's kind of a good drag name. Also, there's
Yeah.
already a famous drag queen called Raja, but
Yeah.
Raja
Yeah.
Raja Kola
But
is
like
kind of
Raja Raja. It's okay.
yeah.
Not just Raja, it's Raja Raja. Say it twice.
All right. So Queen Raja was mistreated by the king of Kulashkara dynasty, which is now part of the of modern India. And this mistreated men led to the Kandalur War in 994 after Christ. And then Genghis Khan and the Mongols were also well known for insisting on the right of diplomats, and they would also take terrifying vengeance against any state that violated these rights. They would, tore down entire cities for the execution of their ambassadors. And the Mongols invaded and destroyed Khwarezmid Empire after an ambassador was mistreated. So it was already taken very seriously.
Yeah.
Um, Now, diplomatic immunity continues to evolve along similar guidelines throughout the medieval times and the Renaissance. Um, this was interesting. In Europe, for the upper class of the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, diplomatic immunity was an easy concept to understand because royal families across Europe shared a lot of family ties. So, representative of other kingdoms were often cousins or even siblings.
Okay.
So when they were visiting, extending them protection and privilege was a way to honor family ties as well as diplomatic ones, right?
Hmm.
Also interesting, back then, war was a status of hostility among the royals themselves and not the individual states. So since the kings and queens dropped like flies, the employers of the army and government was changing often. So it's common to see fraternization between officers of opposing armies who had no real personal quarrels with each other. They're just there on behalf of their king or queen who has some beef with another king or queen,
Yeah.
right? So truces and ceasefires were common, and war prisoners were fairly well treated. They usually gave parole to prisoners and only restricted them to stay in the city that wasn't on the war front.
Okay.
I thought like this was like so in contradiction from everything that we see and we think from those times.
Right? Like if you committed a war, you just get killed right away.
Yeah, or like a war prisoner would be like kept in the dirty dungeon of the castle and whatnot. And it's like, no, they were actually free to roam freely around the city. We just kept them in a city that was not on the front line of the
Which is
war.
funny because how do you even monitor that back in the day, you know?
Well, it kind of feels like it was the honor system. It kind of feels like that prisoner didn't really care either.
Yeah, maybe.
They were even given permission to like carry their weapon,
Oh, wow.
right?
Hmm.
So we start seeing a greater detachment from the individual and their purpose and the political tensions. So, for example, during the French Revolution Wars, British scientists continued to visit the French Academy for scientific exchange. Um, we fast forward to modern times. Diplomatic immunity as we know it today is a result of the 19th century Congress of Vienna that reasserted the rights of diplomats.
Okay.
So the European model was spread and largely respected throughout the entire world. Currently, diplomatic relations, including diplomatic immunity, are ruled by the 1961 Vienna Convention of Diplomatic Relations. So, some countries have made reservations to the Vienna Conventions, but they're minor. A number of countries will limit diplomatic immunity to people who are citizens of their country only, which means that for a country to have a diplomat there, they would have to choose someone who has citizenship there already.
I don't get it. Like someone who has dual then?
Mm-hmm. It could be dual, yeah.
Okay.
It probably would be dual.
Yeah.
Right? And finally, the convention does not cover personal international. The staff of international organizations. So, for example, for the UN, the privileges are decided upon case-by-case basis, and they're not governed by the Vienna Convention.
Okay.
So, in reality, diplomats are representative of nations, and they withhold a tradition of professional civil services.
Mm-hmm.
So they're expected to obey regulations governing their behavior, and they'll suffer strong disciplinary action if they defy the local laws. No. Not only will it compromise their career if they disobey local authority, but it also will cause serious embarrassment. And their entire purpose is to maintain good relationships with the host country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you don't want to be ruffling feathers.
Yeah.
So in theory, it's not a problem.
Yeah, it sounds good if they don't do anything wrong.
Exactly. But humans are imperfect.
No way.
And the abuse of power is in human nature. So let's take a look at a few cases of misuse and abuse of diplomatic immunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's start with Harry Dunn with the teaser I gave you at the beginning of the episode. So where we left it off, Anna Sakoulas had left the UK a few days after, returned to the US. Following her departure, the police asked for her diplomatic immunity to be waived by the United States so that she could face justice in the UK. Before leaving the country, Sakoulas had cooperated fully with the police at the scene of the crash and was also breathalyzed. She was interviewed the next day at her home, and the police said that she cooperated with them.
Oh, so they didn't they didn't even arrest her?
They didn't arrest her because during that interview, she had mentioned diplomatic immunity right away.
Interesting.
Right? So she did admit that she was driving on the wrong side of the road when she collided with them. And police then applied for her immunity to be waived that same day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason she was driving on the wrong side of the road is because she was not used to driving on that side of the road, because they do it on the other side in the UK versus most of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they asked for her immunity to be waived so that they could probably arrest her and finish the investigation. Mm-hmm. But since that process takes time and she still enjoys immunity until it is completed, she was allowed to leave the country.
Crazy.
She left the country on a private flight, which took off from the U.S. airbase.
Oh, sneaky.
Right? Mm-hmm. The waiver, the application for the waiver was declined regardless on September 16th, 2009.
Wow.
2019.
I wonder if that would have been different if she was still in the UK.
That's a really good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't know. Trump was in office at the time.
Of course.
So the UK authorities were permitted to continue interviewing Sakoulas in the US to complete their investigation. So she was cooperating on that side. But tensions grew between the countries because mostly because Dunn's parents were very, very active in fighting this and saying like, no, she needs to face justice.
100%.
That's like reckless driving, and their son died.
Yeah. And doesn't mean because you have diplomatic immunity that you should just be like, oh, okay, well, she was just here on work with her husband or whatever, and she should get
Mhm.
to go home. No, I feel like don't drive if you can't follow the rules. Like,
No, exactly. It's like even if it's an accident, you have to be accountable,
mhm.
right? Um. So, okay. Uh, it quickly became clear that Trump, who was in office, like I mentioned, had no intention to return Sakulas to the UK or to prosecute her in the US,
Mhm.
even. Dunsparent made many public statements denouncing the US handling of the situation, and they even visited the White House,
Wow.
uh, where they met with Trump. And Trump allegedly tried to get them to meet with Sakulas, which was in another room,
Oh my God.
but they refused. And Trump apparently also tried to settle the matter by um, writing them a check,
Oh my God.
which they also refused.
Good for them. That is
Good
insane.
for them.
So
Yeah,
messy.
yeah. So, following consultation with their lawyers, in December, the Dunn's parents announced that they were going to file a civil lawsuit in Virginia, where Sakulas live, seeking to compel her to return to the UK.
Oh, wow.
Um, Many things came out during that civil lawsuit,
Mhm.
and it was questioned if she was even entitled to diplomatic immunity,
Yeah.
because what she was doing there, she was working for the CIA abroad in the UK, and so were her husband, and they weren't actually diplomats.
Oh,
So it's very unclear if diplomatic immunity even applied to them, which
interesting.
is strange that the UK didn't do better homework into looking if this applied before letting her go.
I feel like, unfortunately, like, I don't blame the UK because by the sounds of it, it is very, like, vague what the term diplomat covers. It's not like
Hmm.
like, I mean, maybe they do, but I don't think they have just this card that says, hey, diplomatic immunity, and they put it on the table and then it's thing. I think it's just very vague to find out. And obviously, it's very hard when someone's not a citizen of the country.
Hmm. No, it's vague, and the potential consequences, as we've seen, of mistreating a diplomat can be very severe.
Mm-hmm.
You can cause some serious tensions between countries
Mm-hmm.
for not respecting those, right? So, no, you're right. It's not. It's a very complicated situation to begin with. Um, Now, okay, in December 2019, the Crown Prosecution Services, so in the UK, announced that Sakulas was to be charged with causing the death by dangerous driving, and that they were starting the extradition proceedings against her.
Okay.
Yeah. So the potential sentencing was of 14 years for those charges. However, extradition was denied by the US, and then a huge legal battle back and forth began. So Trump said in public speaking and interviews and whatnot that, it's very difficult, like in his very stupid Trump thing, it's very difficult to drive on the other side of the street. It's an honest mistake. It could have happened to anyone. She's very sorry. Kind of all these bullshit
Like
things.
100%, it's an awesome mistake. It could have happened to anyone, but if it did happen to
Yeah.
a tourist on holiday, they would be charged,
Mhm,
as opposed
exactly.
to someone that just claims diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, and it's like diplomatic immunity, the purpose of it is so that they can carry out their duties. Like,
Yeah.
it's not so that they don't face justice ever.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, that's often how it is claimed,
Mhm.
right? So Dunn's family went ahead with the civil case in the States. And by September 2021, it was resolved. Now, we don't know how it was resolved. It's a civil case, so it's not always public information.
Mhm.
I think it was probably settled in court.
Okay.
After that, the UK finally decided to prosecute criminally, but without the extradition. So they held a trial, but Sakulas was never present.
Okay.
She was never present because she refused to go.
So they
She
held
was
this
probably
where in the UK?
in the UK.
She
Yeah.
refused to go. That's just so weird that that's even an option.
Well, because they don't have any, they can't force her to go if she's not on UK ground. They can ask they can ask the US to force her to go,
Yeah.
which they did, and the US denied.
That's so crazy.
But they're like, all right, well, let's hold a trial anyways.
Okay.
So she did not attend in person. However, she did appear on a video call.
I was gonna say, I was
But
like, zoom in, girl.
yeah. But on her video call, she appeared only to confirm her name and date of birth. So it was about a 6-minute video call.
Insane.
On December 2022, she was finally sentenced by the UK to 8 months in prison,
That's it?
suspended for 12 months, and was disqualified for driving for 12 months
But just in the UK.
in the UK, which the judge acknowledged that the sentence could not be enforced if Sakulas remained in the US. So as long as she never returns to the UK, she'll just never face jail time.
That's insane. That
Yeah.
is insane. That's even like legal.
Yeah. The Dunn's family still see it as a victory because now she has a permanent criminal record. She was sentenced, and it's just out of their hands if they can carry out that sentence or not. Now, technically, if she travels in any country with which the UK has what's it called extradition agreements, the UK could be like, hey, she's to be sentenced, she evading justice, send her to us. But that would be the country taking decisions against the US, and so that would be a whole political thing in itself, right? So most likely the matter is probably just gonna stay as it is.
Yeah, and like if she was smart, she just wouldn't leave the US.
Right. But she is hired by the CIA.
Is she still employed by them after all this?
Don't know. The US is not forthcoming with what happened
That
to
is
her
so crazy.
or any consequences that she's facing on the US side. Right. So that's for the Harry Dunn case. I have a few others here which I thought were interesting. I don't have them in as many details, but they're more straightforward, I think. So in October 2013, a Russian diplomat named Dmitry Borodin, the minister counselor at the Russian embassy of The Hague, was arrested after neighbors alerted the Dutch police that Borodin, allegedly in the drinking state, was beating his 2 small children.
Oh my god.
He was handcuffed in his own home and taken to the police station. When Russia learned of this, they were outraged and demand an apology from the Dutch for breaking diplomatic immunity. And
sorry, I thought you were going to say they were outraged that he was hitting his kids. No, they were outraged that they arrested the diplomat.
But Putin was pissed.
I like how you call him Putin.
Putin? How'd you call him?
Putin?
Putin.
Now I don't know anymore. Maybe you're right.
You're right. I think you're right. No, I think you're right. I was thinking of
the food,
gravy and cheese curds. Okay, so Putin.
Pudding.
So Vladimir was pissed, and he was released immediately by the Dutch, and the Dutch issued a formal apology.
Insane.
So the reason being is that, well, he probably wouldn't be arrested in Russia for beating up his two small children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not the reason, but the Dutch just have no legal authority over him in that way,
Mm-hmm.
which is messed up.
That is so messed up. They had to apologize that they arrested a man for hitting his kids.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy.
Yeah. In July 2017, in Jordan, two Jordanian carpenters were invited to repair furniture at the Israeli diplomatic security agent's residence near the Israeli embassy. It is believed that the Jordanians and the Israeli security agent got in a fight over some ongoing tension at the time regarding the installation of metal detectors at the Al Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
One carpenter, a teenager of Palestinian origin, reportedly tried to stab the Israeli security agent with his screwdriver. And the Israeli security agent then shot and killed the carpenter. He also shot the property landlord, a doctor who just happened to be there at the time.
Oh my God.
Now, Israel refused to allow Jordanian authorities to question the agent, claiming diplomatic immunity under the Vienna Convention. And that was the end of it.
Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
someone died.
I'm so still like confused, like how this exactly. I mean, no, not that I'm confused how it exactly works. I just don't like how it's such a vague term. You know, like you can just claim like some people just have exemption to laws. You know, like
Yeah, and it's like, I think in reality, a lot of people in money often find themselves with similar privilege.
yeah.
But in theory, no. Legally, no.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even our head of states and our presidents and our prime ministers would have to face justice if they committed a murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But not a diplomat.
So crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Or at least not everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it depends a lot on the country of origin and the host country and the importance of those diplomatic ties and the potential tension that it would create.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in August 2017, Grace Mugabe, a former First Lady of Zimbabwe, invoked her diplomatic immunity on the 15th of August after assault charges were laid against her by a South African model.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't go into more details of that one, but what came up often also were diplomatic immunity being claimed when there was charge or accusation of mistreating staff. So they would hire, for example, local staff, force them to work crazy amount of hours, pay them way below minimum wage of that country, and claim to be able to do all this under diplomatic immunity.
Uh-huh.
The beating and mistreating of house staff also was something that came up often.
Holy shit.
Yep. In 2018, this was a big case. 2018, the Saudi American journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed by Saudi officials inside the Saudi consulate in Turkey.
Oh my God.
So Khashoggi was a vocal critic of Saudi Arabia's politics, and he fled the country in 2017. He entered the Saudi consulate in Turkey on October 2nd, 2018, to obtain documents regarding his marriage, right? Because like consulates and embassies, that's the kind of place you go for those birth certificates, marriage certificates, passports,
Yeah.
stuff like that. He never came out
Oh my God.
of the embassy. Yeah. So Turkish police were not allowed to enter the premise and to conduct an investigation. By November 2016, the CIA, because he was American as well, he had like dual citizenship.
Uh-huh.
The CIA concluded that Khashoggi's death was an assassination ordered by Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi.
Oh, okay. So then it was just like,
It's just a perfect opportunity to assassinate him
yeah.
because he was a vocal critic.
Oh my God.
So Saudi at first denied the story. They even denied that Khashoggi wasn't dead at all; that he had left the embassy.
That's so crazy.
They did change their tune, however, and they changed their story and said that the death was an outcome of a fist fight that had exploded.
Oh, so they're like, oh, he went out. Oh, wait, actually, no, there was a fist fight and he died.
Now, in April 2022,
Mhm.
Turkish court ordered the transfer of the trial to Saudi Arabia, which was very, very criticized, despite the fact that many suspects had already been acquitted in Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
So human rights advocates were pissed that Turkey did this. But basically, like I said earlier, the only options that they have is to ask for Saudi to waive immunity, which was not going to happen, or to count on Saudi to conduct their own trial,
Mhm.
right? Which Saudi did conduct their own private investigation and trial. So the trial was closed to the public and also closed to independent monitors, and no names were ever released. Saudi said that they sentenced 8 officials, and that the implications for the crime deserved 7 to 20 years in prison for those eight unnamed person that were arrested, apparently.
Insane.
So we just have to take their word for it because that's the end of it,
That's so crazy.
isn't it?
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hush hush.
Um, so hush hush, and like, but I mean, according to the CIA, this was murdered, ordered by the Prince of Saudi.
Like,
Not a murder, an assassination.
yeah.
And Turkey's like, well, let's send the scapegoats back to Saudi so that Saudi can conclude their own private investigation.
Crazy.
So my hope is that there was no trial at all ever,
Mhm.
and that they didn't just sentence 8 innocent people to jail as to save face.
Yeah.
Well, innocent, more or less. I mean,
Who knows?
someone still carried out those orders.
Mhm.
I also read that like 5 of the people who were sentenced to death,
Oh, wow.
but that the family of Jamal Khashoggi, the victim,
Mhm.
forgave them, pardoned them, which let them escape the death sentence.
That's insane.
That is the most honorable thing I ever heard.
I just hope this is all true and it's not just all like made up.
But that part is apparently true.
Okay.
Yeah. But the family was like, okay, well, we don't want these people to die just as a form of saving face from
Saudi
the
Arabia.
Saudi royals. So if we give them a pardon, at least they won't be
They'll just be in
sentenced to
prison.
death.
Yeah.
Yeah, for being scapegoats, right?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. And then the last one I have for you here in August 2022 again, UN diplomat Charles Dickens Imen Oliha of South Sudan claimed diplomatic immunity and was released from jail in New York after raping a woman twice in her apartment building.
Oh my God.
He then returned to South Sudan, where he was suspended from his duties and is to be investigated.
Oh my God.
So,
Nothing
not
update?
even,
Like that's 2020, like 2 years ago.
yeah.
Uh,
So, this wasn't even like at the embassy or anything. In the apartment of this woman, raped her twice, and was released and sent home.
I feel like, yeah, like diplomatic immunity is a good way to say people that are official, whatever they do is like swept under the rug. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, just like
Hmm.
hush hush, let's just get them home. Sure, there'll be some consequences, like he's removed from his title or whatever, but he won't be in prison in a different country making us look bad.
The thing is, it's a concept that works if we assume that the people who are enjoy the privilege have a very, very strong and strict honor code
Hmm.
and care a lot about um, uh, civil services
Hmm.
and take that very seriously, and also would be threatened by serious embarrassment.
Hmm. I don't
But
even think
that
that.
doesn't seem to be the
I don't
case.
even think that. I think it's also kind of like the example that you said first, where it's like if you go into a country where, like they do surveillance on your phone and stuff like that, and he needs to do a job where that shouldn't be the case,
Hmm.
then sure. And I think it's if you're working and like, say they're a CIA agent and like they're working and something comes up and like they do something wrong while they're working, right?
Yeah,
Which would have been like kind of a collateral of your job,
yeah,
then maybe it's okay.
yeah,
But the fact that it's like, yeah, you're raping people in their apartments
yeah.
and like killing people just because you don't know how to drive, which side of the road you're driving on in your country, in the country you're in, I think that's not collateral damage. That's you messing up. And just because you're a position in power, you shouldn't be given immunity.
And I think that's the one that pissed me off the most because it's between the US and the UK. So if we look at the last one, for example, um, say, or if we look at the Saudi one,
Hmm.
right? Turkey have a lot of citizen uh, that are in Saudi for business or for tourism or something like that, right?
Hmm.
They need to make their decision very carefully with the safety of those citizens in mind,
Hmm.
because who knows how Saudi would uh, um, react if they didn't comply and didn't honor diplomatic immunity,
Hmm.
right? So they need to protect those people in Saudi Arabia that are Turkish citizen,
Hmm.
right? But in the case of Harry Dunn, I think it's a fair assumption to make that no tourist or other official in the UK would be in in the US, sorry, would be in danger if the UK decided not to return
Exactly.
Sakuras.
People just think twice before they rent a car and start driving, but that should be
Right.
done either way.
Exactly. I'm sure the UK had no reason to believe that their tourists in the US were in danger if they didn't comply.
Exactly.
So, you know, I think a lot of diplomatic immunity is considered with that in mind, and sometimes it's just a get out of jail free card.
I agree. Yeah. It's exactly that. And it's scary.
Hmm.
The position,
It's scary
the
because I think it's the like biggest amount of power you could potentially have right now in the world,
kind of, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, without being
right?
in the public's eye at the same time. Yeah, totally. Without being like a
Hmm.
celebrity or
Hmm.
and especially when you are in the public's eye, then the country more likely has to do the right thing. But when it's like they don't know no one who knows who you are and you just have this immunity, you can be slowly moved out of the country and then everything just gets swept under the rug.
And like the case of Harry Dunn, like the public was outraged. The parents did so much,
Hmm.
so much to fight for justice in this case, and in the end, nothing happened.
Yeah. And I'm sure like no one even knows, like no one knows her name. I don't even remember her name. So like even if she like stays in the US her whole life, she's not going to like have any consequences as opposed to like Taylor
No.
Swift did that,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
Michelle Obama did that. Like it would be out
Hmm.
there.
Hmm. Yep.
Insane.
So yeah. So that's diplomatic immunity.
That was very interesting. I feel like that whole word, that whole sentence, like you see a lot in TV shows and movies as well,
Hmm.
but it
Yeah.
just like it feels like they're just a card that you play in a like in the
Yeah.
game of life where it's like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
get out of jail free card, like you said earlier. So that was very interesting. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. I don't know why I said you're welcome. You just complimented me, but you ended it with thank you, so I had to say you're welcome. No, it's exactly that, right? It's something that we're so familiar with the term, but I've never actually stopped to think about it a little bit more
Mhm.
to see what it means. So that way, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everyone listening this week. And if you enjoyed Thomas' episode, give us a follow, rating, maybe a review wherever you are, or send it to a
Hmm.
friend.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I think I realized something the other day. We recorded an episode in which we talk about our blog, which you, and we also talked about St. Patrick's coming up, but it won't be released until the 4th of April, I think, or sometime in April.
Oh, yeah. We totally messed up the order.
Yeah, so next week you'll hear a little blast from the past, but in the meantime, we do have a beautiful blog slash website, tellmelikeimstupid.com, that might make things more fun and easy to share.
Mhm.
And also, as always, we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, on Amazon Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts. So you can find us anywhere.
Yeah.
As well as Tell Me Like I'm Stupid. Sorry, at Tell Me Like I'm Stupid on Instagram, and on TikTok. Oh my God, I almost forgot TikTok.
How dare you?
Okay, boomer. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed listening this week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. See you next week.
Tell Me Like I'm Stupid is created and produced by us, Sonia and Thomas. You can follow us on Instagram at Tell Me Like I'm Stupid.
If you'd like to support us, please subscribe and review on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Our cover art was created by Ish. Find him on Instagram at h.e.e.s.h.
Thank you for listening.